Yo, GD here, and for this video here today, we're going to be talking about F1 Esports. And apologies, there hasn't been much content on my channel recently. That's because I have the privilege of being an F1 Esports driver for Team Vitality and Renault Formula 1 team. So most of my time has been partaking in practice for the final event, which is in about a week or so time, just over a week or so's time in London, the final event, which I'm really looking forward to. But having the privilege of being on the inside, having a view of what I feel should be improved, things I love, but also things, as I said, that could just be made a little bit better for a more rewarding experience, but also it's an entertainment value as well. You want it to be more entertaining, because that's the issue with real Formula 1, that it sometimes can be a little bit dull and you want to see more action and just have a more fulfilling experience when you actually watch it. And that's what this video is about. Hopefully I won't make it too long, it'll be relatively short, but I just want to hear in the comments of what you think should actually be improved in the F1 esports scene. For me personally, as I said, from an inside perspective, it's amazing on the scale that is now on. 2 or 3 years ago, if you said to me that it would be broadcasted on Sky Sports and we would have this format and the production and everything that's gone on with Abu Dhabi last year and having 3 events this year, I would have thought you'd probably been silly. And the only thing I want is for this industry to continue growing, because I feel there's a huge opportunity, and I just want it to continue, just exponentially, just continue to get bigger and bigger. That's all I ever want. For the people who put in a massive hard work for the game, Codemasters, and also for us, the players who just play it and we just love the game, the sport. We have just a huge passion for it. And for the people who just watch it, who just entertained by racing, not just through videos like mine through league racing, but through career mode, just watching the game in general. I just want it to continue just to grow for those purposes. But for me, I'll be going over my points on what I actually feel should be improved, and a few other people's points as well that you actually tweeted me. For me, and someone has also put on Twitter as well, I think qualifying has to be shown in the production. I think that's a major part of it, because since the races are only 25% qualifying, if you're qualifying in the top 3, you're most likely going to win a race. And there's not really much time to recover in the races, so qualifying is a huge part of it. And having the 20 or 18 best drivers in the world taking part in a qualifying session on a game, that's something you want to see. You want to see the laps being pushed to the limit, and not being able to even see the laps, the full lap, is, I don't know, it's something you just want to see. Imagine watching real F1 without seeing the qualifying, just knowing the grid positions. I don't think it'd be as popular as it is, if that's the case. So for me, qualifying has to be an absolute must. And if they can't show it live, then they need to show the pole lap. They need to show actual highlights, a good, decent chunk of highlights from the qualifying at least. Next thing I'd say is parc fermé needs to be turned on from qualifying to the race. And you can argue that there's a skill changing from race setup to qualifying, but in real life they're not allowed to change the setup, and I think a lot of people exploit this as well, whereas in qualifying they can run a very oversteery setup which is very good over 1 lap, and that really suits their style. And then since they get a good grid position slot, then they're able to secure that position for pretty much most of the race. Not to say that these people aren't skilled and massively skilled to control the car in qualifying, but different driving styles. You know, if qualifying, if the same setup was actually used in the race, we've seen in league racing, and especially with the carcass and tyre temperatures this year, it's almost undrivable at times. So you could put on a much more stable setup for the race, whereas in qualifying, if you use that for the race, you'd be losing the tyres very quickly, and I just don't think it really makes it that fair, in my opinion. The only way that will be able to happen is because the game has to restart between qualifying and the race. They completely restart the game so you can load in a completely different setup, is to have the qualifying and race back to back. So maybe a change of format needs to be done, but of course, any of your suggestions in the comments, please feel free to put down below. But I feel the setup really needs to be the same as it is from qualifying into the race, and just to make it more about the raw strategy and driver skill, thinking ahead to the race, whereas you don't know if the race is going to be whatever you put on for qualifying, you've got to realise that this is what you're going to use in the race. You may have to sacrifice some qualifying speed to have a much better race car, whereas in reality, people who are very good at coping with the oversteering nature of the qualifying setup then could just put on a very stable set for the race and just be secure to the end of the race. So I think that's something that definitely needs to be changed. Another thing which a lot of people have mentioned as well is maybe the more variations in the race distance, i.e. a 50% distance or maybe even 100%. I understand completely 25% are just much shorter races, and people who don't watch F1, they may be more attractive to watch because it's just short, snappy, quick and easy to watch, whereas 50% race, you know, if 5 people go off in the first corner, you only go have 13 people left in the race. And if you had a 100% race and half the grid retired after 10 laps, you know, you're only watching 10 cars to the end. So that is a very tricky scenario, but I really would like them to kind of switch it up, maybe 150% race and then a 25% race. So maybe having 150 and a 25, so just 2 races per event. But that would mean, for me, having more events. I think just having 3 events in the space of 2 months is not enough. I think it's a tester for this year, but I would really like to see more events throughout the whole year. So maybe up to 6, 2 to 8 events. And I just think that would just be a much more variety. It would actually involve a lot more strategy, because I think 25% races, for me personally as being a player, I just think they're just a bit too short. There's no real time to recover, and it's purely dependent on qualifying really. If you don't qualify well, you just don't really have a chance of doing well. I did quite well in Australia where I had a bad qualifying there. Still managed to come 5th from 11th in qualifying, so it is possible, and other people have done it as well, but it is very, very unlikely, and you need a lot of luck because all these drivers are so close on pace. I really do feel there just needs to be more variation where you have to involve a lot more strategy, and if you had parc fermé involved as well, I think it would really spice up the grid, to be honest, and just to make people just really having to think a lot more ahead in the future rather than only just having to just worry about then and now instead of actual race instead. Also, I think another person actually raised quite a good point. It's for tickets to be sold online rather than just a lot of just invited invitations. I don't know if that is 100% the case. From there seemed to be a lot of media. There seemed to be more kind of media than there was actual spectators. Whereas in reality, you want people to actually buy tickets to actually come into the event, to actually have more of a real atmosphere instead of, you know, just someone just being invited, in all honesty. So I think having a real Ticketmaster kind of system for that, I think that'd be really, really good. And events held at different locations. My dream would be to have basically a Formula 1 style format where they basically follow the F1 calendar. I know that's a lot of weekends, but if F1 teams are really going to invest in this, then I think they really need to structure it in that kind of way. So I think those are just my points, really. As I said, I'm trying to make this a kind of a quick video, but I really am just interested to hear what you, the spectators, actually think should be improved for F1 Esports to make it more rewarding, possibly fairer, and just better racing. How do you think the format should be changed? Or if you don't think anything should be changed, then I'm looking forward to hearing that as well. So thank you so much. Setups will be, I know I've said that so many times, they will be coming after esports. I've recorded all the laps now, but for esports purposes, I'm releasing them after esports. So I will be back to doing regular content after that. So thank you so much for supporting me in this period. I really do appreciate every message I get, and I will check in with you very soon. Cheers.